For centuries, explorers believed the oceans held edges, places where maps ended, stars shifted, and strange currents pulled ships beyond charted routes. Some captains chased legend, fortune, or truth. Others vanished, leaving only final log entries or drifting wreckage. Tonight we uncover expeditions that sought the ocean's edge and never returned. Subscribe for more. Long before modern navigation, mariners described sea boundaries where water darkened unnaturally. Birds refused to fly and compasses spun without warning. Guided by fading starlight, sailors ventured too far into unknown waters. Their accounts seeded myths of the ocean's edge, feared as the world's end or desired as a realm untouched by humankind. One early vanishing involved 14th century Genoese explorer Ugolino Vivaldi, who sailed with 2 ships seeking a western passage around Africa. He believed the sea narrowed into a river leading to unknown continents. Pressing beyond known routes past the Canary Islands, both ships disappeared. No survivor or wreckage was ever found. Centuries later, the Portuguese caravel Bom Retiro vanished. Her captain claimed to possess a map pointing toward an endless blue sea marking the ocean's outer limit. Ignoring warnings about powerful currents beyond the Azores, he sailed west. The ship disappeared completely. Rumors of ghostly lights surfaced, though none were confirmed. In the early 1500s, Portugal sent the fleet of the Green Sea into the uncharted South Atlantic. A surviving supply ship carried their final message, describing strange walls of water and violently shifting currents. The remaining vessels pressed onward toward a supposed southern boundary. None were heard from again. Polynesian navigators told legends of a region where the sea fell away. These stories expressed reverence rather than fear. Some voyages sought these boundaries, believing they led to ancestral realms. Oral traditions describe canoes vanishing into mists or folded horizons. Several expeditions were recorded as never returning. In the early 1600s, Dutch explorers near the Antarctic convergence reported dark green seas swirling in immense spirals. Captain van der Westhuizen believed the phenomenon marked a boundary between known waters and a deeper sea. Weeks after attempting to chart it, his ship disappeared. Only scattered wood fragments were found. Along the Arctic edge, early explorers believed a gateway to the northern limit existed. The 1719 Daniels expedition entered a shimmering haze later identified as an Arctic mirage. Beyond it, no messages followed. Rescue efforts discovered silent ice fields and an abandoned lead line drifting alone. In the 18th century, Captain Marceau described a visible line across the ocean where the surface shifted strangely. Believing it marked a plateau or current boundary, he crossed despite warnings. His ship vanished. Years later, final log pages washed ashore describing a roaring below, like the sea collapsing into emptiness. The 19th century British brig Resolute Star sailed toward what whalers called the silent margin in the Southern Ocean. Whalers believed the silence meant the sea ended or dropped into a vast trench. Final messages reported rising currents and a darkening sky without clouds. Then all communications ceased completely. As the 19th century advanced, ocean edges shifted from myth to scientific curiosity. Mariners searched for zones where compasses drifted, pressure changed, or waves moved unnaturally. Many were convergence zones or ridges, yet sailors viewed them as gateways. Some ships, drawn by these anomalies, vanished entirely. The 1838 Asterion expedition, led by Captain Elias Brooke, sought a location where seas circled back upon themselves. Targeting a rare South Atlantic gyre, they reached its boundary. Then they vanished. Months later, a buoy surfaced, its wood warped as though exposed to immense pressure. In the 1840s, the Russian Korsakov voyage pursued a moving horizon described by indigenous Siberian communities. Near the Chukchi Sea, they disappeared. Months later, strangely twisted ice fragments washed ashore. No bodies, ship remains, or journals were ever recovered from the expedition. By the late 1800s, some sailors still believed the ocean hid literal descents into unmapped trenches. The Horizon Lantern crew wrote of a dark band stretching across the waterline. Convinced it marked a massive sink, they sailed toward it and disappeared without leaving any trace behind. In 1894, the American schooner Evelyn Dawn encountered perfectly still glassy water that seemed to trap sound. The captain called it the Still Edge. Violent currents soon tore the ship apart. A lone survivor described no storm, only a crushing force rising silently from below. Many disappearances occurred near tectonic boundaries or deep trenches, creating extreme pressure gradients. Yet consistent descriptions of lines, silence, and thresholds disturb researchers. Sailors may have sensed real phenomena using mythic language. Their repeated imagery suggests encounters with forces science had not yet identified or explained. In 1907, the Mornington voyage sought fame in uncharted Southern Ocean waters. Their final radio message described the sea rising like a wall, likely a rogue or pressure wave. Moments later, transmission ended. The ship was never found despite extensive searches. During both World Wars, submarines reported acoustically dead zones where sonar failed entirely. Commanders theorized deep voids or thermal layers. These reports echoed earlier tales of silent margins and falling seas. Even advanced wartime technology could not penetrate whatever lay beneath those strange underwater layers. Cold War research vessels recorded abrupt density shifts, vertical currents, and horizon distortions. These anomalies mirrored centuries-old legends. Scientists wondered whether early explorers had encountered rare phenomena still poorly understood. Modern instruments confirmed strange behaviors, yet explanations remained incomplete and sometimes unsettling. Some historians attribute ocean edge myths to psychology. Others note genuine boundaries, such as thermoclines and salinity fronts, that feel like entering another world. To early sailors, these zones appeared supernatural. Even today, unpredictable regions keep the concept of hidden ocean boundaries hauntingly plausible. In 1912, the Solace expedition sailed south from Cape Horn seeking natural ocean boundaries referenced in ancient texts. Their final wireless message mentioned a descending flow beneath the hull. After that transmission, silence followed. No wreckage, bodies or signals were ever discovered. Later investigation placed Solace near a plunge point where cold water sinks abruptly. Today scientists link this to thermaline circulation. At the time, water collapsing beneath a ship would seem supernatural. Whether this phenomenon caused their disappearance remains unknown, as no trace surfaced. The Japanese vessel Kagami Maru vanished while mapping violent collisions between warm and cold waters along the Kuroshio extension. Logs described a sharp line dividing smooth and churning seas. After that entry, records ended. Fishermen reported wreckage, but no official recovery occurred. In the 1930s, Norwegian cartographer Niklaus Arntzen pursued a shimmering curtain line north of Jan Mayen Island. Atmospheric inversions there create powerful optical illusions. Believing he neared the boundary, his radio operator transmitted that the horizon was folding. Then communication abruptly stopped. Some historians suggest Arntzen encountered a Fata Morgana mirage capable of bending light dramatically. Such illusions could convince sailors the world had edges. Yet a mirage cannot sink a ship. Arntzen's vessel vanished entirely, implying another force acted in those polar waters. The Chilean research vessel Santa Valeria disappeared while studying unusual dead zones in the Drake Passage, areas where waves flattened despite strong winds. Crew members described the air as thick and the sea behaving like oil. After entering the zone, communication ceased. International searches found no wreckage, bodies, or signals. In 1951, the scientific vessel Nordhaven explored deep trenches west of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Instruments detected an abrupt drop in water density, forming a wall-like boundary on sonar. Believing they had discovered a major oceanographic feature, the crew attempted to cross it. The ship vanished without debris. Modern analysis suggested Nordhaven may have encountered an extreme thermocline, a sharp boundary between water masses of different temperatures. Such layers can distort sonar and destabilize vessels. Yet thermoclines alone do not erase ships entirely. The absence of wreckage left investigators questioning whether additional forces were involved. During the Cold War, naval submarines crossing hydrographic boundary zones reported sudden pressure spikes and brief magnetic interference. Some described vertical water columns rising unexpectedly from the abyss. Official reports labeled these incidents unresolved anomalies. To crews experiencing them, the sensations felt disturbingly similar to ancient tales. Naval communities later whispered about a so-called lost boundary in the southern Indian Ocean where ships disappeared without distress calls. Weather data showed no storms during several losses. Vessels appeared to cross an invisible threshold beyond which communication ended abruptly and permanently. In the 1960s, the Australian survey vessel Cape Sovereign vanished while mapping thermaline transitions in the Southern Ocean. The crew transmitted, routine data until instruments detected what they describe as a vertical current wall rising ahead. Their final fragmented message ended mid-sentence. The ship was never recovered. Oceanographers proposed that Cape Sovereign encountered a massive internal wave capable of shifting entire water columns. Internal waves can destabilize vessels under extreme conditions. However, such waves lack the sustained coherence implied in the crew's description. The suggestion of motion toward the ship remains unexplained. In 1974, the French research vessel Aigle Noir studied the Antarctic circumpolar current boundary. During a calm night, it veered unexpectedly off course. The crew radioed that the sea ahead seemed to drop away sharply. Moments later, communication ceased. Only a distant lifebuoy was recovered. Analysts suggested Aigle Noir crossed a sharp density gradient that destabilized navigation. Yet such gradients usually cause turbulence rather than the sensation of descending water described in the final message. The phrasing echoed centuries of earlier accounts, reinforcing the unsettling continuity across maritime history. In the 1980s, satellite imagery revealed long linear anomalies where surface wave patterns shifted abruptly across narrow regions. When compared with historical disappearance routes, troubling correlations appeared. Many vanished expeditions had crossed similar lines. It seemed hidden structural boundaries might shape surface behavior in unexpected ways. Some researchers argued these anomalies represented submerged ridges or tectonic scars subtly influencing currents above. Others believed they functioned as dynamic fluid boundaries, comparable to atmospheric jet streams. Crossing at the wrong moment could dramatically alter buoyancy or pressure, potentially overwhelming vulnerable vessels. In 1992, a British racing yacht vanished west of Cape Farewell after reporting a strange distortion in the horizon. Meteorologists later identified a powerful temperature inversion capable of bending light dramatically. Despite explaining the visual effect, no physical trace of the yacht was ever found. In 2005, an aerial research drone recorded footage of a vast circular depression in the South Pacific. The surface appeared calm, silent, and uniformly lowered. Within moments, the depression collapsed, sending concentric waves outward. Shortly afterward, the drone malfunctioned and crashed without clear explanation. Hydrographic researchers noted that similar surface depressions appear in historical accounts describing seas that dipped or hollowed. While eddies and cold pools explain some phenomena, reported scales exceeded routine documentation. This raised the possibility that unknown deep processes can briefly swallow vessels before restoring calm. Even today, experienced mariners report crossing abrupt thresholds where water characteristics change instantly. Most vessels pass without consequence, yet some vanish beyond these invisible frontiers. Though unmarked on charts, such zones behave like boundaries. Centuries ago, sailors called them the ocean's edges. In 2013, a modern oceanographic vessel equipped with satellite systems disappeared in the Indian Ocean while studying a deep density front. Its final message described a downward surge beneath the hull. Rescue missions found no debris, lifeboats, or signals, only empty water. Reviewing maritime records, investigators identified recurring environmental markers before disappearances. These included abrupt temperature gradients, unusual optical distortions, and sudden buoyancy shifts. Individually understandable, their convergence proved unsettling. Combined, they may create temporary boundary zones resembling the edges described in older accounts. Some oceanographers propose that rare alignments of internal waves, rogue currents, and extreme pressure gradients can generate sudden instability. In theory, such combinations might pull a ship downward rapidly. Yet natural destruction usually leaves fragments behind, making the complete absence of debris deeply troubling. Another hypothesis involves bathymetric compression, where deep pressure events rise unexpectedly and collapse the water column above. Such events could function like underwater avalanches. However, without direct measurement, this remains speculative. The ocean continues to conceal what occurs during those final irreversible moments. Skeptics argue that dramatic language in historical journals reflects confusion during crises. Yet similar imagery appears across cultures and centuries. Polynesian traditions, Norse sagas, medieval logs, and modern radio transcripts describe falling seas and shifting horizons, suggesting remarkably consistent experiences. Researchers now deploy autonomous drones and gliders to monitor suspected boundary regions. However, instruments often fail when approaching these zones. Batteries drain quickly, sensors fluctuate unpredictably, and sonar returns degrade into static. While technical explanations exist, the repeated pattern remains unsettling. These boundary zones rarely remain fixed. They drift slowly with deep currents and long-term climate oscillations. A route considered safe one year may become hazardous the next. Ancient sailors believed the ocean's edges moved like living forces, an intuition modern science partially confirms. Maritime authorities often frame such legends as misunderstandings of rare natural forces. Yet the ocean remains the least explored environment on Earth. When vessels vanish without wreckage or signals, scientific explanations can appear fragile, reminding humanity how incomplete current knowledge remains. For many researchers, the deeper mystery lies in recurring moments when the sea behaves unlike any other place on Earth. The edge may represent transient intersections of forces creating temporary, dangerous boundaries. Ships crossing at unfortunate moments encounter conditions beyond their structural limits. In the end, the lost expeditions demonstrate that the ocean's greatest secret is our limited understanding of its shifting thresholds. The edge was never pure superstition, but a name for recurring phenomena. Even with satellites and sensors, those silent boundaries continue to move unseen.